this performance of this boat, the handling, the feeling on board, just amazing. Absolutely unique.
The Axopar 38s are the most modular boats in the world. So the world premiere of the Axopar 38 Suntop. Now the range is expanding. We're expanding into new worlds, new experiences, new comfort and livability, but still always remembering that Axopar #1 promise to deliver one of the best handling and driving boats in the world.
So Janne, very nice from you coming over here to Mallorca with the new Suntop. But for me, like this cross cabin setup is just ideal. And I just can tell you, just coming here, we had these rollers, these really nice rollers, and this performance of this boat, the handling, the feeling on board, enclosed and still being open in the sun was just amazing. This 5 minutes, 10 minutes coming here was just above any expectation with the new 38 cross cabin.
And that is the one thing that I love on the Axopar 38 cross cabin. You close that boat in 10 seconds, it becomes an all-weather capable boat. But now we're at anchor. We have the balconies open, we have the doors open, we have the roof open, we have all the mattresses out, we have the aft window open. So that cross cabin in just like 10 seconds becomes a really sociable platform and really mixes the best you have in two worlds.
But you coming here had just probably a little bit more the wind around your ears. You had more this like sportive feeling, which I could have if I just digged out my nose out of the big side doors on each side. So I could have this feeling, but for you, you felt probably going 20 knots faster here than I felt, because for me it was a pure limousine feeling, depth side, the weather conditions we just had.
Exactly, so it's a question of what sort of preference do you have? Do you want to drive and feel the wind in your hair? Do you want to be out there, get the elements? And it's your own preference, it's your own choice. We don't force you to buy anything. You make the boat and you buy the boat, especially to your own needs. And that is the beauty I think we have now with the Suntop and the cross cabin.
What you don't have is like an open of a back window. You're completely open, but this is just amazing. So I have a full contact now to the interior of the boat, lying here in the back, you know, having this backrest folded up here. It's just insane.
Yeah, and again, me sitting here on the sunbed, facing you forward, this is also like a testament of the ingenuity of our team to get the boats as modular as possible. On your boat, you have the U-sofa with the high-low table, so you can make it into a bed. But for this, you make the choice. You select the boat that fits your use best.
I like my setup even more because I can lie here as you, but I also can convert it to the table.
Yes.
So it's the U-sofa setup, which makes you able to use it as a table in two different positions. And also the sunbed is to be used in this forward-facing setup, which is my preferred one, or moving the table even a bit forward. So that is more, you can lie in the front, but in this back-facing, I can even lie sidewise, which you can't.
I can have the same comfort, the same modules you have on the cross cabin, even on this boat. So it's just for me to choose whatever fits my preference the best. Then again, what I have on this one is of course a huge storage. So underneath here, I have additional fender storage. So it's not only that it's a sunbed, it's also functionality on board. The 38 has been clearly hitting the gym. It's more masculine, it's more rugged, it's more robust. It has more chiseled form. So we more or less reshaped how an all-weather boat can still be capable, but at the same time look really, really good.
But this is the most open cross cabin, the most social cross cabin you have ever built. And this is for me then the wording, it's fitting the best ever. So it's not a cabin, it's not a coupe, it's not a wheelhouse, it's a cross cabin. And this is a mixture somehow out of your boat and a cabin boat.
Exactly.
And this is very unique
Hence the
this
name
level now.
cross cabin. It is a true crossover. You especially take the best of two worlds on this boat. But now we're not here to talk about the cross cabin. We're here to talk about this boat, the world premiere of the Axopar 38 Suntop. So Patrick, welcome on board, and let's explore what new we brought to the open boat concept.
Okay,
of the
I just
Suntop.
take my stand-up paddling down, stand up down and come over.
Yes, welcome. So Patrick, you do a lot of stand-up paddling board, or is it foiling today?
I think the foiling is that what is a complete different feeling of all. You can do big distances. It's like the difference between running and bicycling. So the foiling is for me like bicycling the race bike here in the island. I can explore the island. I'm fast enough. I can do this. I do distance here of 25 nautical miles easily. I've been here in that bay from Calanova, and I can go very close to shore. I can explore. I can go closer than with the boat. I can see buildings. I can see caves. Yeah, it's like race biking compared to going by car.
Yeah, and seeing something that you generally never see, either only foiling, so combining the foil together with the boat, you really get the best of both experiences. So you get to experience electric foiling in new locations you would never do regularly without a boat.
And then the stand-up paddling, if you do it here in the bay, it's like a very social thing. You can lie on board. It's like an extended bathing platform. But when you do it actively, it's like running. It can give you, like, take your breath quite fast. And it's quite a sport. So if you look guys who do that professionally, they look like swimmers. So they're athletic. I'm not that athletic, but I would like to be. So the stand-up paddling is the way of doing an active sport more than the fliteboarding is. Both, I love it on it, is tigging the balance. So the balance, the balance in our body and the balance standing on a fliteboard, on a stand-up paddling board is very good for your health, for your good feeling, and being on the water anyway.
And this is a part of the adventure, going and exploring, doing new stuff you haven't tried before, or just being out there and exploring new places, new locations.
So I'm going to use now the platform. So normally I would have needed to throw it in, but now I'm lower and I can just put it in the water very easily.
So that's one of the key objectives with the activity platforms. You actually even see clearly that the stand-up paddleboard and you entering it, it's just standing up and now you're just moving over. So that's exactly what we wanted to create with the activity platforms. It's not an extension of the floor, it is something else.
So Janne, you have your fliteboard standing on your platform on port side. Could you just lower the platform on the starboard side for me, so
Yes.
I have an easier access to the boat?
Yes, we'll do that for you, sir.
So that's a perfect way of boarding.
Welcome on board,
Lie
sir.
down, and I can sit even down like this. So yeah, I just fitted it there, perfectly working. I
Yeah.
can even hide a little bit with this swell here below the platform. This shows, I think, a big difference to your colleagues, how high the platform is. And I said it also in the video I did yesterday, because a low platform has a very high risk of a wave, like a roller, just even from a passing boat, hitting the platform and giving it a very high impact. And it's also from usability.
Yes.
To go onto that board now, being all the way down would be very tricky.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you need a certain step
Yes.
height. So we have like
Yes.
this 20 centimeters of a normal step, which is in
Yes.
our brain,
Yes.
to get like in fact on here, so
Yep.
you can hold yourself.
Yes.
So if you imagine this would be the floor now, I can
Yep.
even not hold myself
no,
to
exactly.
get onto the board and get stable.
So, stability, but also the one thing that we saw on many other boats with the low platforms. Whatever on-water toys you leave are gonna get destroyed by the low platforms because they're gonna just get
Smash
hit
it.
and smash them. And here, for example now, for the electric foiling, this is the perfect launch station. And that's where it really becomes interesting. So
We're gonna do that later. Oh?
we're going to do that later for sure. So, welcome on board. You see the same elements of the 38 cross cabin. It's a bigger boat. You
Much bigger
feel
boat.
it. But also the one thing that we're here at Anchor and we're having these small rollers coming in. But the whole point with an Axopar is also that it's very stable. You don't need to run gyros. It's very stable. So the rollers are not really actually bothering you for a day out at sea.
And this is confirmed from one of the most experienced boaters on earth, a friend of ours, who has on every boat he has his gyros. Doesn't matter which boat he has.
Yes.
But one boat, an Axopar,
Yep.
is without gyro.
Exactly.
And he says this boat doesn't need it.
No.
And this is very unique. And this is very important that for me it's like a gyro is only, you know, if you really say it's impossible, maybe somebody in your family is getting so
Seasick.
fastly sick. If it's impossible without, then you choose it.
Yeah.
But you should always trying to go without it because it's just the energy
Yes.
and all this
Complexity
noise,
and cost. Exactly. And that's the one point of the low center of gravity, the low silhouette of the hull, and the real good mass placement of the boat, which creates this sort of a stable platform. But hey,
What layout
this-
is that now?
this
It's very
is the
different.
new sofa. We developed this for the very first time that I've ever seen on any boat, this sort of layout on the 29.
So I can see this is like on my cross cabin, huh? This setup here, but
Yes.
this is very different there. What do we have on the port side?
So this is the beauty of the modularity. The Axopar 38s are the most modular boats in the world. We made so much extensive work to redefine how we can make the boat adapt to your needs. You buy the boat that best suits your need. So for this, you can have the activity platforms, but if you don't need them, you can leave them out. You can have them with the fixed sides.
So the boat can be as my
As a
cross
standard.
cabin as any other boat from Axopar.
Exactly, and with the standard fender box you can have in here, but to me this is like the best of both worlds. I can still be sitting in here while at anchor, enjoying myself, or while driving and just having a view forward, but I still have the fender box storage underneath. So all that storage I can still utilize, but it's like a dual purpose. The same thing, I can just be, you know, sitting around here enjoying and having a lot of friends on the platform and just, you know, being around. But the one thing that I really wanted to show is now the wet bar. So again, we have a cushion on top of this one. So if you just want to be sitting here or lounging, or on the opposite side, just be sitting in here and lounging. That's the whole point of the cushion. But underneath here, we have a wet bar. I have a huge top-loading fridge to keep my drinks cool. I have a sink, and on this side, when I remove the cover, I have a trash can.
But I could have that as well in my cross cabin, am I
Exactly.
right?
Yes,
because
you
I
can.
have two of these seats, but
Yes.
thinking about that, it would be also
Yes.
probably my favorite having a wet bar on port side.
This
because
is the same for me. I would probably, this is my preferred setup as well. So having the wet bar, having the extra cooler, especially if you take a lot of friends out and you want to have, you know, like a nice lounging, like we're doing now here at Anchor. Yeah, for sure. I would appreciate the more storage for food and beverage.
absolute my favorite as well. But we have loads of storage down here as well because we
Oh,
don't
yes.
have an aft cabin, we don't have a multi-storage, still having a big amount of seating. So
Yes.
this gives us a little bit of both worlds, the U sofa.
Yes.
Because up to now, like sunbed seating was sacrificing somehow
The
a little
space
bit
in
the
here.
space in the back.
Yes.
And
this
now
is-
we're having a wet bar, we're having
Yes.
a U sofa, which I really like because you have corners to sit.
Yes.
And then you still have the storage and the big
Yes.
like dancing floor
And now-
style.
And now where you're standing, you see the extension we made for the engine bay as well. So we create additional space to move around. And actually, we will also be doing the leaning post. So the sofa that you can get in here leaning forward, that one is also going to be as an option later on.
So you have more or less then another seating
Oh, yes.
possibility here in the back,
Yes.
sitting with up to 6 people.
Yes.
If
Again-
you would have changed that into sunbed.
Yes, exactly. So the most modular boat in the world.
This is all be shaded, as in my
Yes.
boat as well.
Yes.
So we do that later.
Yes.
So show me the front deck, please.
Yes. So let's go and have a look at the foredeck. So again, walking around the boat, we have hired the gunwales, we have integrated the railing, and it just looks cleaner this way. And whatever, for example, I was moving a stand-up paddleboard here the other day. Also, when I have this hidden away, I'm not bumping into stuff. And if I have anything that would be hanging from a bag or something, it's not going to get caught in anything either. So that's one of the major things that we
And
changed.
it gives, like looking at the cross cabin, she has that in the same way. It
Yes.
makes the boat look so much cleaner.
Yes, definitely.
I
But-
remember you in the start, you always wanted to sell me boats without the railing. There were drawings done on the first 37 without
Yes.
railing. You always
Yep.
liked it,
Yeah,
the
cleaner,
look without the railing.
Cleaner.
But
more-
at this point, you know,
Yes.
like you need somewhere to put your fenders, you need somewhere to hold on.
Definitely,
But this is
definitely.
a very nice solution.
Yes. And this configuration now is with the forward-facing sunbed with a huge storage underneath. So for me, easy access, push of a button, I have fender storage underneath, and I can store all my gear in here. The one thing that is standard is of course the storage I have underneath here, the forward storage, and then of course I have the anchor locker, which is also good, decent size. So that's the preference. So you can select and choose whatever sort of module you want and what sort of experience you want. This boat also of course will have a sunshade in the front, so we're going to put that one up later on as well, so you get a good overview of it. But it's just being out on the water, being out with friends and family, and just enjoying your day out at anchor. Patrick, you fell asleep already?
Well, oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. That's such an amazing place here. Sorry, I just fall asleep. It was a short night last night. No, this is amazing. I just, you know, getting back here, this fits perfectly. You can be like, how many people? It could be 4 or 5 people here. It's just, oh.
Yeah, and just on this section alone. But again, have a look at the sofa. So the sofa
connects to it even.
Connects to it. And look at this when I just switch the backrest from driving position. Have you ever seen something like this?
Amazing.
This is like a huge divan. You're 2 persons in luxury is going to be sitting and lounging in here. I have
and
the
it's
electric.
Even shaded now, like not with this sun level now, but at midday, it's even shaded without putting the sun shades up. So it's really easy, fast setup.
Yes.
I love this.
And
like
closing the roof, bear in mind when you're at anchor, you're also be protected by the windshield, so the wind is also less in this area than you would have in the front or in the rear of the boat. So it's just about this centralized socializing, hanging around, enjoying a perfect day out at sea. But also from the 29, you could remove these backrests, and you can remove this backrest on the 38 as well. So creating even more space.
And more space and more view also. So I see now the beach and it feels even more open.
Yes, but it doesn't stop there. Also from the 29, we made that the backrest, you can also switch position. So again, we're just lifting this up, turning it around.
Turn this around? Okay, that's on.
And I can be facing backwards. So first, start with this. So now, I'm facing backwards, having a good overview of the water activities.
Water activity, kids in the water, and you.
Yes.
And the room stays the same. It's just where the rest is facing. It's a little bit different.
Yes,
Very
but
nice.
again, it doesn't stop here. So let's move this one in the front.
Oh, this I like. This is now, because we are facing here the more beautiful landscape behind the boat.
Yes.
So we are not even now lying here. We're not even seeing any other boat in the bay. We're just on our own.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is.
So this is the view of our afternoon. Can it be anything more beautiful like that?
No, this is just amazing.
And again,
we are more protected here, you know, because you normally want to be more with the upper body protected, face and upper body. So if you close that, you're much more protected than even sitting there in the back.
Yes. And you also already see we're creating shade. So only our legs are in the sun right now, but we're here in the shade. And as I mentioned, the windshield gives us added windshield protection. So it's really a nice place to be.
Amazing.
But again, it doesn't stop there, because I can still use this as a seating area, even though I would have people in there.
Or in the driving way.
Yes.
Then you're having a second row where you're sitting next to me.
Yes.
And we can communicate. You can even put your legs a little bit up there. So we have an additional seating row just close to the driver bench.
And even if we push this one down and we move only this one, you can have. We can be sitting like this.
Yeah, which
so
is very nice.
I don't believe there is one single boat out there that can offer this sort of multitude of functionality, modularity, and sociability and lounging.
No, you forgot something.
Yes.
Without any complex technique.
Exactly.
Because this is, you know, you can do many things.
Thank you for saying that.
Electric engines, complex
actuators
and
break,
whatever.
need servicing.
This will not last, especially not up here, because this area will be splashed down here daily with water to get the salt water away. Yes. So what we just did here was in fact a tube in a socket. and one, you know, double hinge piece moving here, but nothing
the whole idea with Axopars are that we really make the extra effort to make very complex things simple.
I would say bulletproof.
Bulletproof in a way. We're selling our boats all around the world. And these boats are going into one of the absolute most remote locations you can imagine in the world. So we need to be able to service, take care of them, and the guys there locally needs to be able to do small fixings and small
and understand
things.
them.
And yes, so this, I would say it this way. It's 5 times harder for us to make these solutions that look so simple. When you look at them, you go like, huh, why didn't anybody think about that before? Well, it's because it's just that damn hard to do.
Oh,
But-
very well done. Very well done. I'm starting to think if the cross cabin is the right decision, because again, being here in the summer, you know, I just need to count, you know, there's loads of friends I need to invite here, you know. It's like this is like easily 10 people will, you know, have a good time on here without
10 people on board will disappear.
Yes.
On so many boats, if you bring 10 people on board, you're always bumping into each other. People are always in the way of each other, and it feels like you're congested and crowded.
Oh, it's-
On here, you know, you can have 3-4 persons in the back, 3-4 persons in here in the front, and it's not even crowded. That's one thing. But again, when it came to the cross cabin, bear in mind, in Cannes, in September, so just some months from now, we're going to launch the cross dock. So you're going to get the same windshield, the same side windows, the protection that protects you from the wind on a full open boat, and maybe that's then your best solution.
I love the cross
that
top
suits
already
you.
on the 45 very much. But in the end, I like the cross cabin because I'm going to go in this bay here in December, in January. I've been here at Christmas. I've been here at New Year. Nobody else here.
No.
Now it's like 5 boats
Yes.
because we're during the week in May. But
Yes.
I like it being here when there's nobody else. Even
Exactly.
sleeping here overnight and so on. This is my, so being here in July, August during the summer, this is my choice.
And I would say also this is one part with Axopars is that where the people gather in summer are the usual hotspots that are easily accessible and are the ones that get to the crowded the most. And with an Axopar, you drive faster, cruising speed, in greater comfort, in different driving conditions, feeling fully safe and in control, and you go further and you find those bays that are not crowded, even in August.
Absolutely. We had an event on the weekend, many people on board on the 38 who have never been boating before, and I was driving with them 40 knots at harsh conditions, and I was always asking, what do you guess we are driving now? And they had no clue. You know, it was like they were not even asking, could you go slower or whatever. We're doing 40 knots
Yes.
at certain level of waves, and this is so unreal on an Axopar, which again, you need to test it, you need to understand it. To any Axopar dealer worldwide, go there and test the Axopar in its environment, because
So-
that's unique.
Exactly. So the sea trials of an Axopar is where we do the sales. Other boats sell when they're stationary on land on a boat show.
But this one would even sell on the boat show, stationary.
Yes.
with
Yeah,
this
for
concept.
sure. But the whole point being, one thing is being at anchor and just socializing. But to us, over half of the experience of being on the water is driving, feeling the speed, feeling the control, the agility, having this is the same like buying a sports car. So if you like sporty driving and driving the sensation of a sports car, the Axopar is the perfect one for you. But you still get the comfort, the sociability of the 4x4 SUV, all combined into one.
I can see that all the boats are going back in the evening here in Mallorca to Calanova, and then in the evenings the people do spins in front of the port. Can you
yes.
imagine?
Yes.
Like you've been all day out, the kids are on board, everybody normally is just hassling to go home. And what do? They do donuts.
Yeah.
With the Axopar 37, and this is, I think, says the most about the boat, is like if you, before you moor,
Yep.
you have the wish, and including your family has the wish to do
Fun.
donuts.
Yeah, have fun.
And this is all about driving an Axopar.
That is true. So here you go. This is the Flite Axopar collaboration, a new e-foil that is made especially for boaters. To me, e-foiling is, when I started it 1.5 years ago, it was an absolute new experience for me. I love learning new things, and the e-foiling to me was probably one of the biggest sense of excitement and of learning new skills that I have for a very long time. So what makes the board different? Hey, hi, Patrick. So he's having fun already, and I'm stuck here explaining the board, but well, maybe I have time to join him later. So the main...
Nice, we have some rollers out there.
Go and have fun. So the board being, Patrick keeps me distracted. I want to get out on the water, but let's still make this story first. So the Flite X Axopar is a great collaboration with the world-leading e-foil manufacturer Flite. It's a corporation that is owned by Brunswick, and they really spearhead the development of e-foils. To me, the excitement of learning something new, that just looks beautiful. To me, the excitement of learning something new, that when I started e-foiling 1.5 years ago, was so thrilling. And the sense of learning something new was really rich, and I really, really love fliteboarding. Why we want to do one that is especially made for boats is that we wanted to make it an inflatable. We wanted it to have a double reinforced bumper, because wherever we're moving this around, on shores, on boats, you can easily ding stuff with it. But this one, because it's air-filled, you don't need to be that careful about it. It will not ding or scratch like you would on a conventional carbon fiber board. In addition, to me as a beginner, I really love this board because it's buoyant, so it keeps me floating while I'm trying to get the first touches into foiling. And a lot of our friends who tried the e-foils, it was easier for them to get their head around that this was more like an electric powered stand-up paddle board for them in the beginning. And as they get comfortable and they get their sensation of how the board handles, in 20-30 minutes they started their first foiling experience. But just getting out on the water, learning new stuff, exploring, challenging yourself, that is something that I truly love. And I'm gonna be thrilled to see these boards out with our dealers, being sold through Axopar dealerships. Wow, that's a good one. If you haven't fallen, you haven't tried enough. That's the saying, right? I'm gonna give it a go. It's the first time foiling for this season. But just to show you the idea, I can easily sit on the activity platform. I have the board sturdily underneath my feet. And the one thing that I really love about it is that it's buoyant. So for me, I will go knee first and try to go foiling from here. Patrick, or the guys that have done this more, this will be a perfect dry start for them. They're just able to launch the board more or less directly into flight mode just by standing up here. But to me, just to show it to you, the board floats by itself, so it's just for me to find my balance, get the understanding how it works, check that everything is okay. I have the trigger and I have the power, and now I just go. Say,
that looks really nice. I wish I could try as well.
Patrick, your first impression of the Fliteboard?
So starting from that platform was really cool. Yeah, you know, if I would have not crashed before, I would have been dry. No, really working well. Also, yeah, to this access to any board of that platform is just amazingly good. Again, because of the height, that makes it much more comfortable than I ever had imagined. How well that works. Really good.
What was your experience on the Fliteboard?
Very good with the jet. Also, it's a good size. I'm not normally a fan of. I did try the very big board from them just before on the weekend. This is a good size. I think
it's a unique
very
size.
Good, very
so
good for a beginner.
And it's a specific size that we only made for Axopar.
Oh, it's very.
So they have two different sizes: a big 100 and then the smaller 80. This is in between.
What I really like is because normally when I take it out of the water, then you can grab it here.
Exactly.
And then I turn it around.
Yep.
Like this. And then I have two handles here.
Yes. And then you lift it up like that.
And then I can lift it up like this.
Yes.
And I can hold it here.
Yep.
Then I can, if you're not being there, I can put it on the array and wash it. Like spray it down because this is really needed.
Yes. There's also another way.
Well. And then also I can do the same. Sorry, and put it like this in the water.
Yes. And just guide it.
And let it fall.
And it nicely falls under the activity platform and you're ready to go.
Yes.
But again, to me, boating and adventure, to me, is an emotion. It's something special. And to me, it's a bit of a part of exploration and learning something new. But just to remind people that adventure is what you make of it. So for some, it's going mountain climbing or going with a mountain bike or just hiking on an island where you can't access by car. Or for somebody just to be out on a boat, enjoy the sunset, read a book, sit there with families and friends and just relax.
I think for me an adventure is not being with a crowd. This is already an adventure, like not running like a lemming in all the same direction.
Yeah,
with
doing
a boat,
your own.
With a boat, you always have to decide which direction you go, in which wind, like across the wind, with the wind, in the bay, on the ocean. So it's always a decision. So you cannot just follow.
No.
And this is already the adventure. And what the Axopar does there, it brings you further, faster, and safer there. And that's what it makes an adventure boat. So it doesn't need to be this, adventure could also be like, it's not connected to how you do it, it's with what you do it.
Exactly. And with who you do it.
And with who you do it.
That's cool.
So let me try again my launch here. Yeah, we're going.
And he's gone. Up foiling.
Hey Janne, where are you?
I went into the front cabin. We were talking about the social spaces on board.
Are you working?
I can show you how this would be a perfect way of working, but one on a boat don't work. But there is the occasion you have to work. So just to give you an idea, have the laptop with me, just also to tell you about the storage we have inside here. So you bring everything you want with backpacks. We have huge storage underneath here. So I'm just pushing the backpacks in here and I can create space for 4 backpacks under the backrest and they are not at all in the way. But again, this is for me one of the perfect places to be and do some emails if you have to and do some business at some point. Occasionally you have to do that. It's just, but again, perfect place, sit here. I'm in the shade. I'm out of the sun.
To anybody else?
I'm not visible to anybody else. I can work on my laptop. I don't have any glare on the screen and I just flip down the Gullwing doorstep.
The original idea of that is a step to come in.
Oh yes.
So
but again, while we were sitting in here and we were just, like thinking, do we need a table in here? I was like, well, we have the perfect table in here already. Again, this is the standard layout on the 38. You can have the fully enclosed toilet that is big and massive, and the standard kitchen cabinet. But in here, standard, it's a huge lounge.
It's impressively big. It's much bigger than what I thought. So this front cabin got loads of length and height additional
Yes.
than we have on the smaller model, the 37. So that's a really big step. And then we're also having here.
This is now
like
with the extended wardrobe, so
cupboard.
you can have a cupboard that is huge, the drawer fridges, everything that you have standard on the 38, but again, now with more storage around.
And this I really like. It's like fully pull out drawers and a small sink even.
Yes, true.
And then we have something what we know from the boats before.
Yes, the toilet hidden underneath. So this is more or less, this is again a preference of choice. Do you want to have this lounge seating, or do you want to have the more privacy of an enclosed toilet and a shower? And that's, you can specify it for yourself, for your own preference and need.
Really nice done.
But the real beauty is the unique Gullwing doors. We are the only ones in the world, and we are the first to implement Gullwing doors on a boat, on the 37 in 2020. And this just completely changes how you can utilize the front cabin, because on any other conventional boat, this would be a very dark, secluded, even noisy area. But now I get the wind in my hair, I get the air to change, and this, I would very happily go and take a nap inside here. Just fold down the backrest and take a quick nap.
And I really, kids like it because they want to be part of the grown-ups doing something outside, still liking to be inside, more shaded, a little bit this cave feeling which the kids like. This is really much. I can see kids having all of this backrest up and climbing over it and hiding behind there and being still connected to the outside because the Gullwing doors are open, so they don't feel that they're somewhere in the living room.
No.
They're in the living room, but still away.
The same way a kid would love to go and explore those caves that are behind us. They would like to explore all these nooks and crannies that are on the boats.
Absolutely.
So that is one of the biggest. But still, let's have a look at the foredeck still more, because I think still being on anchor, being outside in the nature is still being outside.
We go. Thanks, Janne. You prepared already the sunshade in the back. Let's do the front together, as it is so easy and so fast.
Yeah, it's more or less put the sockets in place, take the lightweight sunshade in there. On the 38, we actually put 6 fixing points. So with these 6 fixing points, we actually create even more shade.
Which I really like, and they must be not too long, because otherwise you're not having the shade effect.
Exactly.
You know, it's very.
So
they need to be a certain low level, because then you have a more shade, because the angle of the sun.
That's the full point. So just have a look. We have the sun, I think it's 12:20, 12:30.
So full
and
up.
full up sun, and we are sitting in here, full protected from
like
the shade.
now it's really, there's no sun here in the front at all. There's a little bit here, like going from here on, which is clear, but it's really now a big shaded area.
Yes.
And I really like, if it would be a stock company, I would buy shares with these poles, because that's so genius. They produce a certain pressure, you just hook them in, and it's such an easy product, and it works so well and fits so well to the Axopar.
And even here, so the Gullwing cushion, I can still use this even with the sunshade. So for me, this is quite a nice place to be in. So now actually, if the guys are even filming right now, you see that we have rollers in here, and the platform is not hitting the water, and it's not even, touching or doing anything to the stand-up paddleboard. So
it's
to
just
us,
making it for me more challenge to go over.
Yeah, but then again, the whole point, don't fall in.
No, I'm trying not to. It didn't have. If this is on video when I'm falling in a stand-up, like you.
I jinxed it for you. So Patrick, we had great time on the water. My first time foiling this season. I'm so much looking forward to be able to do that in Finland as well. But hey, we promised the guys and girls watching this to have an idea of what the boats are to drive. So let's hit the waters, let's get out of anchor and just have fun driving back.
On that I've been waiting all afternoon for. Yes, Flite use amazing, lying in the bay amazing, with you being here, but you know, now the part comes, I'm enjoying the most. So let's go. So for me, not having a neoprene, I'm happy to sit now in a cabin boat. I'm cold, that's why I have a jacket on. So nice to be inside now.
And I'm on a t-shirt because I had the wetsuit on, and I'm gonna drive the open boat, and I'm just gonna enjoy having the wind in my hair to dry my hair. So one thing that I really appreciate and that we put a lot of time and effort into is also the ergonomics of the driving position. So my favorite position is always to be standing and driving, but to me just this sort of having this clean helm, you know, feeling more like a car, and especially now with the new 38 we redid some things on terms of design and integration of our electronics just to make it feel more like a car than a boat actually.
I cannot say it better than you just said it, because I'm repeating this very, very often. A helm is the place where I think you can really feel if a boat is built for boating or just to look like a helm. So you need to be able to stand well. You have this, like the steering wheel should not be in front of you in the middle. It should be like aligned with your left arm, so you can easily access the throttle without interfering with the steering wheel. And then I put now the single lever, which I really like, so I just have one lever to control both engines, and I can lean then with my hand on here, and I can really good control the power. And then for sure very important as well is not only the standing, it's also the, so I move this a little bit more forward, it's also the seating position. So I can see that it's high and sitting high enough. I have a comfortable footrest, I even have an armrest. I can change the position of the steering wheel, and still this is very relaxable to reach. But confirming what Janne said, I'm also loving mostly to stand, especially when we do some active driving. What is amazingly good now on the 38 cross cabin is that I have a ventilation. So I can, like the door locks in the end, but I also can do in this ventilation position, and for sure we have the roof completely open.
And also the one thing that you also recognize here while you're driving out in the swell is also the low center of gravity, which also means that the boat really in these rollers doesn't want to roll too much. It's a comfortable, safe sensation, just feeling confident behind the steering wheel. And the one thing that the boats are doing, Axopars are renowned for, is how they keep their heading. So we really don't need to steer the boat. The boat keeps care of its own track. And as you're driving, Patrick, so close to me, this is like almost like driving a car on tarmac, even though some other boats will not provide at all this sort of sensation that we get behind the steering wheel here.
Fully agreed. In my video, like a video I did in German yesterday, I did this as well. I drove 40 knots and I kept the steering, like I took my hands off the steering wheel just to show how the boat drives more or less like the autopilot would be on, but there was no autopilot on. So the boat is not affected really by the waves. It just cuts its way through and goes just as it would be an autopilot.
Also one actually pretty funny fact regarding the capability of the hull and the comfort. If there are any sailors out there and you've been following America's Cup, Sail GP competitions, you will see a lot of Axopars in there, and they are being used by the television crews to put a huge gimbal on the Aft Deck, because it's one of the very rare hulls out there that can provide the best stable platform for driving in fast, wavy conditions, to provide the perfect conditions for the gimbal to work to cover all those races.
Plus, the boats are very dry, which is like the advantage for photo boats from the first day on, that photographers love them all over the world because they don't have to clean their lenses. So in comparison to a rib, for example, where it runs very, very wet normally. So we're having quite some swell now, running with the wave. Running now 20 knots, 19 knots. We're having the V10s, 350s on both of the boats. The V10 is similar weight than the 350, not much heavier, but in the wave it has more torque, which I really like. And playing a little bit with this boat now in that wave is like remembering a little bit what I just did before with the Fliteboard. You know, I can surf it, and very differently to the 37th, especially the Mark 1 before, the boat is not having any idea of doing a nosedive. So we're having now a 1 meter wave, and it's impressive how I can surf here through without thinking too much.
This is one of the definite features on an Axopar that both the beginners and the experts love. So the driving and the handling, the intuitive sensation is also one of the reasons why we have so many sailors driving Axopars, because a sailor knows that it's everything in your fingertips. The control of the sailboat is in your fingertips, and this is the boat that comes closest to having and providing that exact steering sensation.
What I find very impressive, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to speed up a bit, and what I'm doing, I'm going with the same speed against the wave, especially when I'm doing now this turn. Normally every boat is meshing, but it's just going through it. It's soft. This is just so impressive. This turn I just did against the meter wave normally would have been very uncomfortable, and it's just going through like butter. Absolutely impressive.
Exactly. So we've done extensive work in providing strength into the hull and into the stringer system to provide this sort of a strong sensation, and there is no slamming, there is no noise, it's just smooth driving. And this is exactly also the same things that create this sort of sensation of confidence for anyone driving an Axopar, because it's just doing what you're asking it to do. There is no surprises, there is nothing that you didn't calculate for. It's just smooth, precise, relaxed driving, cruising. And of course, we're now doing 27 knots, and this is like a leisurely Sunday cruise, and it's just so much fun. And we're still doing 27 knots, which for many boats, even in these conditions, can already start to become uncomfortable. And we're just beginning to get started.
Now I would like to go a bit faster, because 26 is really not an Axopar speed for me. It's like, let's do like where I would say we are talking about the typical cruising. I just locking my door, and now I'm really the one, you know, I'm having the sun on me and running 32 knots. It feels like, you know, being in a limousine. My not much existing hair is not drying in the wind. It's like I'm just warm, comfortable. You know, this is yeah, amazing. And again, we have quite a chop and some rollers, and we're running 32 knots now.
We always have a bit of a problem when we want to showcase really the functionality of the house, is that they go through the waves so smoothly that it actually shows a bit undramatic, like the conditions are not there. But I promise you, they are here. And it's just this sort of a, again, leisurely, calm sensation where the hull does everything we wanted it to do, and it just works beautifully. So the fuel consumption on the 38 Suntop with the V10s is around 3.4 liters per nautical mile, and you can select the speed between, let's say, 22 knots to 34 knots, and the liter per nautical mile doesn't actually change. So you can select a wide variety of different speeds that suits the conditions without affecting your fuel economy.
So I'm now at 3.2 liters, 3.3 liters, variating depending if I'm going down a wave or pushing it a little bit up. So let's go a little bit, so at 30 knots, so let's speed up a bit again. So I think we're going now 35, heading to Portals. So I'm doing now 37 at, yeah, this is still a cruising. So at 5,000 RPM, 4,900 RPM, I'm running 37 knots. Very close by to you. I hope the drone can still follow because we're with the wind. So I'm at 3.7 now.
So this would be a higher cruising speed, but this is still one of the best speeds if you want to track and make long distance cruising fast. 37, 38 knots, up to 40 knots. This hull is just cutting through the waves. Undramatic.
Fully impressive. And I can see your airtime. You know, your boat is out of the water in between. Yeah, so I can see, but you probably don't feel it, but you can see how much waves we have. So let's turn a little bit to starboard. So we're going side to the wave, heading to Caladova. Not changing the speed even. I just made it turn like in a car.
Exactly. Now I'm going to be cutting through your waves. Completely undramatic. It's just great fun.
As we said, it steers like it's autopilot on. Just very impressive.
And now, Patrick, my hair is dry.
Just slowing a bit down so Yannick catches up. It's just so much fun to drive. I could drive the next 5 hours now.
This is what Axopar is all about. Just doing distance and enjoying and watching the sceneries. Just, you know, I don't know. At some point, one should just be quiet, no talking, and just enjoy it. Because this is such a fun sensation, just be out there on the water.
I'm going to do now what all the customers do when they come back in the evening. I see them here from my apartment doing some donuts before going into the port. And I'm doing now donuts with quite some waves. Now I'm at 30 knots. It's just so impressive how it handles the side approach of a wave, which I've never experienced on a boat ever like this. So it's not only the stem, like the middle part of the hull cutting well, it's the whole hull, even you're lying on the side. Very impressive. What I really like, Janne, I just did it the whole way back here, is I have the roof open and also the back window open, the side doors closed, so I'm at some point protected by the environment if I would catch a wave and there would be a little bit of spray coming over to the side. But what is very amazingly cool is, and this was used also on the weekends already with people even sitting there in the back, is when the back window is open, I have much more the feeling of an open boat even I'm on the cross cabin. So just to show, you know, what Eric is now filming there from the back, you have the back open, and this is all the way we went here from Porter's Wells is in that setup. There's no movement at all, and this is not to be used, you know, at the worst wave conditions, but in a daily use this gives such a big advantage for the cabin use. Very amazingly done. From your team, such a big step forward. Really nice.
Heading back to Calanova and then for our press event. So we're actually going to be driving the next 2-3 days with press from all over the world, and they're going to get their first feeling what the 38s and especially the Suntop, having the world premiere here, how this boat really feels. So it's going to be a combination of driving, and it's going to be a combination of being at anchor, socializing and relaxing, and also they're going to get a good opportunity of driving the Fliteboards like we did today. So again, sometimes we have an opportunity to have some fun while we're working. I love my job. I love the people that I work with, and I love all our fellow Axoparians that share the same passion with us to go out, explore, enjoy a day out on the water.
Thanks a lot for that day out at sea. It was a pure pleasure. It was not work. Even it was work, but not for me. I was able to drive a 38 cross cabin, an amazing boat in these amazing conditions, because this is, I think, perfect condition for that boat. I was able to use your new Axopar Fliteboard, which worked out very well. You know, as I said, I'm surfing the more smaller ones, but yeah, very nice. Catching some waves, even doing some surf. That was an amazing day out, and thank you or your team mainly, or everybody at Axopar, for just doing these amazing boats, which are absolutely unique. And for everybody out there who just watched that video and understand how passionate my company is about boating, me and my person, and how much Axopar is, then just come to any dealer worldwide and experience what it is about to drive an Axopar 38, to feel the difference, which is not the sentence of Axopar really, but it's somebody else who uses that sentence, but it fits also very well. Thank you.